Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us here on Nile Oracle. The new language of power, Egypt's diplomacy, is redefining regional influence. That will be our main topic here tonight in the company of our dear distinguished guest, Dr. Asmaa Elzieny. And Dr. Asmaa is a senior fellow at the Global Peace Institute at the United Kingdom. Dr. Asmaa, great pleasure having you with us here on Nile Oracle. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Asmaa. First, Asmaa and gentlemen, about Egypt's diplomacy and how Egypt's diplomacy goes indeed beyond the battlefield and helps shape the regional equation, helps bring security and stability to the region.
While wars continue to dominate global headlines, another decisive contest is unfolding far from the battlefield, one driven by diplomacy, dialogue and strategic partnerships. At the heart of this diplomatic momentum stands Egypt, whose foreign policy has emerged as stabilizing force amid one of the most turbulent periods in modern regional history. Over recent weeks, Egyptian Foreign Minister Dr. Badr Abdel Ati has maintained an exceptionally active diplomatic activities, engaging in intensive consultations with Britain, the European Union, Arab partners and key regional stakeholders. Cairo has simultaneously hosted a series of high-level ministerial meetings focused on addressing the crises in Gaza, Sudan, Libya and the Horn of Africa and the broader Middle East, reaffirming Egypt's role as a trusted platform for dialogue and conflict management. Abdel Ati described diplomacy under President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi as entering a new era, one characterized by summit diplomacy, balanced foreign relations and diversified international partnerships, stressing that Egypt's diplomatic engagement has undergone a qualitative transformation over the past decade, restoring the country's regional and international standing while remaining firmly anchored in national principles and constructive international relationships. This vision is increasingly reflected in Egypt's expanding network of strategic partnerships, from deepening cooperation with the European Union to maintaining close coordination with Arab states, Africa and influential international actors. Cairo has consistently demonstrated its ability to engage all parties, positioning itself as a bridge between them, an approach that has enhanced its credibility as both a mediator and a dependable regional partner. The significance of this diplomatic momentum extends well beyond bilateral relations. At a time when many countries are grappling with overlapping security, economic and humanitarian crises, Egypt's emphasized on dialogue, political solutions and regional consultations reflects a broader vision of collective stability. Whether facilitating discussions on Gaza, supporting efforts to resolve the conflict in Sudan, strengthening Euro-Mediterranean cooperation or expanding engagement across Africa and the global south, Cairo continues to project diplomacy not merely as a foreign policy instrument but as a strategic pillar of national influence.
Thank you for staying with us here on Nile Oracle, and we welcome back again Dr. Asmaa Elzieny, the Senior Fellow at the Global Peace Institute at the UK. Dr. Asmaa, as regional conflicts become increasingly interconnected, Egypt's diplomatic engagement has expanded, and it goes beyond the crisis management into really trying to shape the broader political outcome of the multiple theaters. So how do you see that? How do you see Egypt's recent and historic, I mean not just recent, but historic influence as a diplomatic force?
Actually, anyone watching what's happening in the region and the world recently can definitely say that Egypt is exerting unprecedented effort to contain the situation in all neighboring countries. Never at the same time that the world faced the problems happening at the same time at Sudan, at Libya, or on all our borders, at Gaza, of course, and lastly the war, the Israeli-American war and Iran war. Actually, being amid the location of Egypt and being amid like at the core of what's happening in the whole world, make it necessary for Egypt to make its diplomatic movements like calculated in a way that you cannot leave one conflict or one dispute affecting the other. Actually, when you analyze this situation in depth, you discover that all places are somehow related. What is affected, what is happening in one dispute or one conflict is affecting actually in way or another what's happening. For example, what's happening between Israel, US and Iran is affecting, no one can deny the situation in Sudan somehow, affecting Gaza conflict. So the Egyptian diplomatic movement is like balanced, calculated, and not in one, like you could say, not in one form. Each dealing with the situation according to, after studying the situation in all levels, on all levels, and having partnerships which is suitable to handle the situation in this place.
Right. And speaking of the balance, you mentioned that's a very important point. So Cairo has steadily strengthened relations with major international and regional partners while maintaining this balance you're talking about, maintaining the balance and also maintaining an independent foreign policy. So the importance indeed of having, of being, talking to everyone talking to us, of the trust that exists between Cairo and the major regional and global capitals, and the balance that Egypt is applying.
Ultimately, we can confirm that Egypt is one of the very few powers in the world having a balanced relation and partnership with all powers in the world, with China, with US, with Russia, with whatever power in the, and even at the region, Egypt has the balanced dealing with all the policies of all regional countries and states. I believe that thanks going to the Egyptian movements during, I could say, the last 3 years since the 6th of October eruption of a situation again in Palestine, 7th of October. I believe that the measured and calculated and balanced movements, whether being towards the Palestinians, the Israeli part, the US, the other regional power, I believe that thanks to this moderate and calculated and balanced situation, that we could finally contain the situation. I believe that reaching like a peace deal which happened at Sharm el-Sheikh with the attendance of all superpowers like US and other partners, I believe this was never to be reached without the wisdom of the Egyptian diplomacy and the movements which like when it's needed to be like little bit strong reaction, we have this. When it is so rational and so taking its time, I believe it was like this. That's why Egypt is maintaining this relation with all, with European Union, with US, with China, with Russia, because it is elected most of the time to be the one state able to deal with all these conflicts.
Right. And speaking again of the Egyptian diplomacy's influential role, it's not just about talking to everybody or mediating in crises, but it's also about having a clear vision, I guess, a clear vision for just solutions, for what can be lasting solutions, independent visions that take into account the national security of Egypt and of the Arab brothers and sisters of Egypt. And I guess there is no clear example of that than Egypt's stance regarding the just Palestinian cause. I mean, Egypt keeps repeating day in and day out that there will not be just and lasting peace in the region without an independent, vital Palestinian state.
You could say without fear that Egyptian situation towards the Palestinian case is stable. Having one situation. There is no displacement of the Palestinians. The only solution is the two-state solution. They are returning to the borders of 67 UN borders. These are like these are like the basics. We are moving still beyond this. According to the new partnership, you know, in the world of today, it is so important to have this balanced way of discussing the situation. Sometimes you reach your goal, still how you handle it, how you deliver your message, it makes all the difference. How to deliver the message to whom, which partner you choose to be your partner in this situation. I believe that Egypt is so smart and so wise in dealing with the conflicts by choosing to which partner, it is the European Union or US or whatever partnership we have, to which the conflict. Sometimes when you have the, like, could say the unsuitable partnership and interfere in one situation, it could lead to escalation of the to the opposite what is needed. But alhamdulillah, at least for now, till now, the situation handled in the history that is known about the Egyptian diplomacy. We recently were celebrating like the 200th anniversary of having the Egyptian diplomacy, and it has its own tradition, the whole world, and it is by the super leaders of the whole world admitting that the Egyptian diplomacy is that kind of diplomacy which is balanced and respected, much more than this.
Right, and it's not just again about one cause. Of course, the just Palestinian cause is the most important to Egypt. But you mentioned earlier, Egypt has a fixed, policy, or believes in certain principles that are supported by the United Nations Charter and by the international law regarding situations wherever they are. I mean, you would see Egypt saying the same thing about the same problem in this or that country, because Egypt always believes in the principles of international law and the UN Charter, and I guess this is something that gives credibility to the Egyptian diplomacy.
Another very important phase of the Egyptian diplomacy, that Egypt is always keen on the integrity of the whatever lands we are dealing with. This is like a main concept that it is usually repeated. Whoever partner is dealing with Egypt, he knows that Egypt never in history known to attack one country, to approve the solution or doing harm to the people of whatever country. And the most important is the integrity. We believe that by guarding the security and peace of other countries, actually we are serving our national security in way or another.
Yeah, I mean, when you were talking here, I mean, Sudan got to mind, Libya got to mind,
Syria.
Syria, Lebanon. We talk always about the territorial integrity and the sovereignty, and we are against any, of course,
of these lands,
whether by the occupation in Syria and Lebanon, or whether by parallel outlawed militias in Sudan, or So also Egypt has a fixed policy when it comes to solving crises. It believes that peaceful settlement is always the best solution. It believes that de-escalation is always necessary in the beginning. It believes in the table, in the negotiating table. So what could you tell us also about that?
Apparently,
it was obvious in the Iran problem, for instance.
Apparently, Egypt is sitting on all the diplomatic tables, on the table of all the conflicts around us, and even the whole world. But that, as I just have told you, that it is a wise handling. Sometimes it is the need is to receive people. For example, the people in a way or another are leaving their countries when we feel the whole world failed to stop their displacement. When we receive our neighbors or people who have to leave their countries somehow in one way or another, one of the basic Egyptian principles that they live here as never in another country. We see other countries when they receive like refugees, they have these camps and tents and living in a situation not accepted. Whoever, whatever, whenever comes to Egypt, he is treated completely like an Egyptian. We never consider them like refugees, like a majority, like whatever. They are treated, and this is part of the whole Egyptian policy, which the diplomacy is part of it. We tell these countries that we are receiving their citizens and they can live here until the situation, like what happened in Syria. For more than 10 years, they were so welcomed here. When the situation there is like indications the situation is going to change a little bit, we may tell them that it's time for some to return if the situation is getting better.
And everybody, I mean, as you mentioned, I mean, Egypt has welcomed the Syrians, the Sudanese, the Iraqis, Libyans. I mean, yeah, the Libyans and
Yemeni, whatsoever.
Yeah, and Egypt, I guess, is the second home for every Arab country. Now, it's not only about bilateral diplomacy, but also multilateral diplomacy, and Egypt is very active in multilateral diplomacy, and I guess its belief again in the UN Charter and international law and the principles of international law is always evident. So what can you tell us about the multilateral diplomacy that Egypt is a very active part of? This
is another phase or form of Egyptian Egyptian diplomacy main features, that we are sticking all the time to the international law. In our whatever dealings with whatever power, this is one concept. When we disagree about to which side to take the situation, to the side that more towards the in line with international law. That I believe this one of the things that always guiding the Egyptian diplomats and Egyptian diplomacy toward this, the right of not Egyptian interest. This is normal in policy and in diplomacy, that we are keen on our interest and this is our right. But at the same time, being keen on your rights doesn't at all contradict with the rights of and interest of other partners and neighbors. This is what makes the Egyptian diplomacy remarkable amid all Arab and regional states.
Right. Now, Dr. Asmaa, speaking at the bicentenary celebration that you were just referring to of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs this July, Foreign Minister Dr. Abdul Ati described diplomacy under President Sisi as an era of summit diplomacy. This is how he described it. So in your opinion, what distinguishes summit diplomacy from traditional diplomacy, and how has summit diplomacy enhanced Egypt's regional and international standing?
It comes when you are dealing with superpower. It is your turn to deal on that level. Sometimes when you deal with like, it is not denied that like the states in the whole world is like divided into developed and developing countries. Whatever power you are dealing with, Egypt is able to deal on its level. We never beyond the level. Usually when the European Union needs a partner to discuss whatever happening in the region, Egypt, Norway is the first and final partner to whom they seek help. And Egypt at the same time is at that level. We are able to handle and to contact everyone, and this was very clear during the negotiations to reach the peace deal between U.S., Israel and Iran's last conflict. I believe Egypt was one of the major players handling the situation, being thanks to, of course, Pakistan and other regions in the country, but still the Egyptian way of handling this goes with this, what Dr. Abdul Ati called summit diplomacy.
And Dr. Asmaa, also part of Egypt's diplomacy is economic diplomacy, the economic cooperation, always when Egypt, when there is this contact between our foreign ministry and foreign ministries abroad, there is talk about exchange of expertise, about investments, and about mutual economic benefits. So what can you tell us about the economic diplomacy, the economic part of Egypt's diplomacy?
Actually, diplomacy is never confined to calls and meetings and agreements and MOUs, things like these. Economic diplomacy and also military diplomacy, especially in the case of Egypt, has always been like an integral part of our diplomacy. When it comes to using power, we use it rationally. Sometimes in some situations like the 73 6 of October war, it was necessary to convert to using power to
liberate our lands.
Liberate your land. But still, it is not that like violence, like humiliating the soldiers you are fighting. This is what makes the Egyptian diplomacy, and as you just have mentioned, the economic diplomacy. In our world today, if you are not economically powerful enough, you will never be respected. That's what the Egyptian state realized as early as possible. That's why Dr. Abdelati usually in his meetings is not tackling the political cooperation. Here comes the importance of making the economy and economic diplomacy a very clear and seen part.
All right. Dr. Asmaa, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be taking a short break here on Nile Oracle, and then we'll be back.